Well, hello there, and good afternoon, Flosstube. This is episode number 11, and today is Friday, October 1st, 2021. And it's been 2 months since my last Flosstube. I was hoping I'd be able to do one last month to show you what I was doing for Sampler September, but I'll show you that this month, and I'll show you that next. But first, I'm excited because I want to show you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I picked up from the framers last week. And so these were framed at the craft center, framed by Jamie, and that's who does all of my framing, and she always does a beautiful job. So the first thing I want to show you is my prim and proper. I started that back in March, and I'm so happy to have it finished. And I love how the frame looks. And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to kind of tip it sideways a little bit. The frame is kind of like antiqued or marbled or something, kind of. It's hard to explain it, but the colors in it are kind of a teal and a little bit of pinks and bronzes in there. It's really pretty. So I'm happy with how that turned out. And I already told you everything, what I stitched this on, and it's also on my blog and my show notes from my last 1 or 2 floss tubes. So anyway, so I'm going to hang that in my bedroom on my wall and call that a fun finish. And then the next one I've got is Hannah's Brownstone. I think I showed you last time that that was all finished and ready to go to the framers. And so that is by the Scarlet House. And I had started this last year in STITCH-TOBER. And by the way, today kicks off the first day of STITCH-TOBER, and so I'll be telling you what I have, what my plans are for STITCH-TOBER and what I'll be starting tonight. So here's a close-up of that frame. I love how that turned out, and I think I'll be putting that in my family room. And I have already shown you the color changes that I did in that on my blog in the show notes last time. Okay. And then I got my red sampler back, and I love how this turned out. This is done with Kringle's Coat Silk, and I'm super happy with how that turned out because I wanted it to be really kind of not real strong, just kind of faded looking, and I wanted to pick out a frame that was older looking, so it just kind of looked like it was a very old sampler. That's the one that I just did this and then added a border there on the bottom. And so I'll be happy to get that on my sampler wall. And then this one is by Plum Street. It's the Milk and Cream Company, and I was going to make this into a pillow. Well, that's the chart right there. I was going to make this into a pillow, and I had stitched this on my Farmhouse 25 count Lugana, which I love the colors and how all of the colors look on this. I did do a color conversion, and I did tell you about this color conversion on my blog show notes from my last floss tube, but I really love how all those colors looked on my Farmhouse Lugana, so I really wanted to do it. I just kind of wanted a little bit larger, kind of chunkier looking, and so when I stitch on Lugana, I stitch with 2 threads over 2. But anywho, so I was going to do a patchwork pillow around it and put it in the bench in my kitchen, but since then we got a different trailer, and the kitchen area in my trailer is these colors, and it just goes perfectly, and it has a perfect little wall there that this can go on. It's kind of a farmhouse kind of look in my trailer, and so I thought that would be perfect. So that's what I'm going to do with that. So I do have a camping trip planned, so I'll try to remember to take a picture of it hanging on the wall and then post that on Instagram and show it to you hanging on my trailer wall. All right, and then the last one I picked up, oh my gosh, I love this frame. It's so pretty. And this is Summer at Cherry Hill by Brenda Gervais. And I did do color conversion, and I stitched this on 36 count LATTE by WDW Designs. And I did also post about my color conversion on my blog. My word, that is a loud motorcycle. But anywho, there's the threads. So that's already on there on my blogs in case you wanted to know about that. But I'll just kind of come a little bit closer like that so you can see that. This one's going on my bee wall. It's growing. I just started. My bee wall is in my hallway, and I just started with one framed piece in the center, and then I've just been hanging them around it until it grows and covers the whole wall. But you know, maybe next time I'll give you a photo of that, do a little progress photo each time. But I'm super happy about this. Of course, it's got bees on it, and it's a sampler, and so I love it. All right, I'm just going to set that one over here. So those are my finishes. Super happy about that. And now I'm going to talk about sampler September last month and the stitching that I did. I wasn't able to do a ton of stitching as much as I would like to, but I did get some stitching in, and the stitching that I did do was, you know, pretty simple, like this one, which I love so much. Okay, so I was able to start this. This is Dutch Hornbook by Bright Needle, and I've had this for quite a while, and I've been wanting to start it for a long time, and I finally, you know, when September was rolling around, I thought, I'm going to pull that out and just get it started. And so this is as far as I've gotten. This is the bottom, so it's not really a huge sampler, but I'm stitching this on Straw Flower 36 count by Lakeside Linen. And so I'm stitching 1/2. And for this, I thought it would be really fun to do a conversion using the new anchor floss on spools. Now, when I say new anchor floss, it's the same anchor floss colors that they've always had, but now it's new and on spools. And a couple of months ago, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, I can't remember, right when they were barely putting it out, I happened to be in Joann's, which was quite a coincidence because I never have time to go in there very often anymore, and they had just put this display out. And so I was super happy about that because I do love anchor floss. I like the finish it has. It has more of a kind of a vintage finish to it. I don't know. It still has a sheen to it, but it's not shiny. So I don't know if that's the best way I can describe it. But anyway, so I bought a bunch of threads, put them in my vintage basket here, and then I thought it would be kind of fun to, these are the colors that I've pulled to use in this sampler. So I'll just pull them out one by one. I don't know if you can see them if I turn them sideways like that. Then you can see the number. But I just kind of pulled colors that I thought looked pretty together. I'll let you see the numbers first, and then I'll turn them sideways. But I'm almost finished with the sampler. I'll show you the picture again. I'll put the picture close up. I hope there's not a glare. Can you see that a little bit better? It's a small picture. But I love all the little motifs and the Dutch sampler and how it's in a horn book and everything. And inside the chart, it talks about, well, not inside, on the back, it talks about the horn book and, you know, the history of it and things like that. And so that was kind of fun. All right, so there's the colors right there that I've used. And then I'm going to put them on their side. And then you can see, so when you're choosing colors, or when I get this question all the time, you know, they always look really strong when you're laying them on the linen because, you know, it's a bold color that you're laying down. But I always make sure that I unwind a little bit and just put out one thread, because that's what it's going to look like. So I'll see this color right here. That's what this is. It doesn't end up turning out so bold. So just know that when you look at the colors and they're super duper strong, when you're stitching 1/2 using only one thread, they're just kind of fades into the linen a little bit more and it's not so bright. And so I hope that answers your questions, those of you who have been asking me about how I do my color conversions and pick the tones, how they go onto the linen. All right, so that's one thing that I worked on for Sampler September. Let me move those over there. And then another one I did was, this is another one that I've had kitted for a long time. And Happy Little Stitch Shop was doing this sampler as a sal. They're still doing it. I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but I usually don't stick to the guidelines when it comes to stitch along. I just try to, you know, stitch when I can on my schedule. So this is what I have finished so far of the Brick House sampler, and it's been really fun stitching along with Happy Little Stitch Shop and everyone there. And that's they had like a contest on what sampler they wanted to do, and they just all voted, and then just over time, by process of elimination, they eliminated different ones and then decided to start on this one first. Now, this is one that I did my own color conversion on. I'm using DMC. I decided to use DMC. I didn't think any of the elements were really large enough that needed that overdyed floss or anything, that it would still look very vintage in DMC. And I'm using this cloth by Dames of the Needle. It's 36 count American froth, and I think it looks very vintage as well. So that helps it look vintage. But don't you love these colors together? I just thought they were so pretty. And so when I finish this sampler, then I'll be putting the color conversion on my blog and giving you that color conversion. Like I've said before, I don't like to give you the color conversion until I've finished or I'm almost finished, because sometimes I change back and forth, and you know, I'd hate to give you the conversion and then I changed my mind and did something else. And so I wanted to show you that I've used Teresa's Holy Moley's, her second set, I think is what it is. And these are the square ones. But I thought it was going to be really fun if I grabbed a square punch out of my paper crafting supplies and did a square punch. And so I put that down there in the bottom, and I really like how the floss lays in that too. That looks really fun. And I just liked how the square looked in this square shape. And so all I did was use a square punch instead of a circle. And I know that seems like a little thing, but that can add something kind of fun. So that's my progress on that. And I'm housing that. This sampler lives in this bag, made for me by Christy, out of my Prim fabric. And then got one of my little crocheted flowers that I did a tutorial on, and these little gingham fabric covered buttons. And so that tutorial I did for these crocheted flowers is last month, and it's here on my channel. Here's one that I started. Here's another bag by Christy, another crocheted flower, another of Cassidy's keychains, which was on the other bag as well, and on the same tutorial that I did the flowers, when Cassidy went ahead and did a tutorial for her keychains there. And that's been so fun to see all you guys' comments on the flowers and the keychains and see them on social media all over and on your bags, and that's been really fun. So thanks everyone for the kind words and the participation in that. And so this is one that we started with a group of friends. So last week, well, it was like 10 days ago, they went home last week, but I had a group of friends come over and we had Girls Week, and they flew to Utah. And so now Christy lives here in Utah, so she was already here, but Christy and I planned for them to come, and we have decided to start this, our lasting friendship, together for quite a while. And Laura, the cereal starter from Brenda and the cereal starter, she's one of our friends that came, and she had asked me if I would do a color conversion for the our stitch that we decided to do together, our lasting friendship. And so I did. And so this is a nice start that I've got. I stitched on this while they were here, and we had Teresa Kitten Stitcher here, we had Susie Reno, and we had Nicole's needlework, and then again Laura, like I said, and Christy. So there were 6 of us, and we had a lot of fun, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in this episode. But anyway, again, I'll be happy to share my conversion as I get a little bit farther and make sure I'm not going to be switching anything up. But I'll be sharing that. I'm loving this stitch. It's going to be really fun. And so I was able to stitch on that this month. Put that bag back up there. And then the one thing, you know, we always have the best laid plans, right? I had plans in this bag, and I know I showed you this before because this is one that I did with, that I prepared this sampler right here with this. I think I know what that is, but I want to make sure I say that. Yeah, this is the called for. This is antique lace, which is called for. This is Carolina Amelia Trowel by Brenda Gervais. I did not get a start on it in September, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. I'm still gonna do it. Here's all of the threads. So I've still got that all kitted up and ready to go. And I hope to at least get a start and, you know, do the house and a few things and get started on the border. And that's what I like to do. You know, as you know, if you follow my floss tubes, you know that I always start in the upper right hand corner, and I know that's a little different than most of you, but that's just kind of how I've always done it, and because I'm right-handed and I kind of move across that way. And so that's my sampler September. That's my finishes. And now I'm going to talk about something fun that I've been working on this for the last little while. And so I'll be right back and bring all that stuff in. All right, so I'm back. I brought in a bunch of fun stuff, but before I started talking about the fun project I've been doing, I wanted to show you a few of the fun gifts that that we exchanged at our little Girls Week. Look at this bag that Laura had made for me by Stitch Folk. It's got the name tag on it. There's the back. Look how cute that is. I love it so much. I know you guys understand my love of project bags because we all have the same love, right? And then that little needle book in there. Isn't that fun? Thanks, Laura. That's one of the things that she gave to me, and I love it so much, and definitely will be putting that to good use. And then Susie made a bag for all of us using a vintage tablecloth that she thrifted and she cut up and put on the bottom there, and I love that. And I love this mesh that's in there because I love how you can see through it, but yet it's, you know, really easy to get to, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, damaging your pattern. And look at this adorable fabric on the back, and then this cute tag, Stitch Week, got thread on it. Thank you, Susie. I love it. We had so much fun. I recommend doing a Girls Week and planning it. We've been planning it for a long time, so it's not something that we just, you know, threw together. It's just something that we've been planning, and it worked out. And this is something that Teresa gifted us, and I love it so much. Now she knows how much I love 36 linen, and she dyed this for us and named it Salt Lake. I mean, how sweet is that? And I'm going to be saving that for a special project, and whatever I stitch on it, I have lots of things of Teresa's, and she designs her pattern company. Her pattern designs are under the name Shakespeare's Peddler, and so I have several charts that I want to do, and I'm going to save this for something that I have in mind, so when it comes time I'll show you that. And then Brenda wasn't able to make it, but she was so sweet and sent this gift. Look at this pin cushion. Isn't it beautiful? It's done by an early Americana workshop and studio, John and Diane. And it says they have a Facebook. But look at that. I mean, that is just gorgeous. Thank you so much, Brenda. Next year you'll be here in my stitching chair, and I can't wait. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because I knew that all of you would love to see project bags and linen and pin cushions and all that stuff. Okay, so one of the things that we did was, remember a little while ago, again, that same tutorial that I was talking about when I did these crocheted flowers, okay, right here. Then I showed you real quick how to do, how to cover buttons. Oh, I got a little bit of ribbon in there. So this is my jar of gingham button covers, and I have them in all different sizes. And I've put them all in this vintage jar because, you know, I collect vintage jars. I have forever because I have a thing for jars. And so that's what those look like. But I took a bunch of the 7/8 size and a few other sizes over to the place where we were all retreating together, and we spent the week covering buttons. I thought, oh, it would just be fun. I took my covered buttons, I gave them all a crocheted flower, showed them the covered buttons, we talked about my tutorial, and I'm like, do you want me to bring stuff to do some covered buttons? And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So that was really fun. So I'm just going to turn these over. These are the ones that I was able to do for my little jar there. So isn't that fun? And I'm going to keep going until I cover enough to fill this jar. And I use them for all different kinds of things. One of the things I wanted to show you is I did a tutorial for covered buttons a long time ago. Look at those two jars. They couldn't be more different. They're both mason, but they're just from different years and different sizes. But I did a tutorial on covered buttons on my blog like years ago, so many years ago, and this is one of the things that I did. I hope that's not, if I put it like that, you won't be able to see the ceiling light in it. But these are 1/2" covered buttons, and they have the shank on the back as well. And I found a frame that's kind of like a little shadow box that had this much space between the glass and the back. And so I put craft paper on there, and I just measured it out and punched holes right there. And then I stitched those buttons onto craft paper, and that's been hanging in my sewing room for a long time. And I love that. So that's kind of something fun that you can do with covered buttons. But I think they're just cute just sitting in a jar. But, you know, I do find several uses for them. So one of the things that I wanted to show you that I've been doing was I am making a sampler in a jar. And you're like, what do you mean by a sampler in a jar? So look what I've been doing. I've been taking my red sampler stitching. Remember my red sampler stitching here? And I've been making covered buttons. Let me move these so I can move this up a little bit farther so you can see. All right. I'm going to sort these out. I made a bunch of these from my Prim fabric. These are the 3/4 inch. And then I've been using this silk thread that I've been using for this sampler, which I'll show you more of in a minute. And I've just been doing random stitching on my little leftover bits of fabric. Look how fun that is. So that's what I have in this jar so far. And so I talked to you about this fabric. This is Affogato, and I've been using this, and I said I'm going to use this within an inch of its life, like I'm just going to stitch a whole bunch of stuff on it. Well, I ended up almost finishing this. Let me put these aside. I haven't finished my schoolhouse yet. Doing this in Schoolhouse Red. So, but the frame is only small that's going to go in, and it fits around here. I need to do a little bit of stitching and put the words here, and then I'll have this fabric left over that I can use. And then I did this in DMC, which I showed you, so that's one piece of the fabric. So I'm literally right now showing you every bit of this 27 by 16, 17 piece of Affogato. Now this one is almost finished. Okay, this one I'm doing for my great-grandmother on my dad's side. So this is my dad's grandmother, Genoveffa Ciccone Salzetti. She was born in 1884 in Picendro, Italy. And I'm going to be doing a red sampler wall that has all of my grandmothers and great-grandmothers, a sampler for each one of them. And also I'm going to do one for my mother and put on there. And I'll probably do one for myself and for Cassidy, my daughter, and then my granddaughter Sophie. But I would like just one wall full of red samplers just for my family, my grandmothers. And I just think that would be really fun. And so, I know I'm digressing, trying to explain all of this. But what I've been doing is when I cut off a piece right here, see what I've got going here? I've got a strip here that I can do a few little covered buttons. Now, normally when you cut this off, you just put them in the trash because you're like, that's just a little bit of a strip. But look what you can do with just a piece of silk thread. This is 945. This is my favorite in this silk. And look what you can do, cover some buttons. And so I'm going to end up with a sampler in a jar. And so I can quickly show you how I do it with linen. It differs just a little bit. It's pretty much the same. But before that, before I put these away, look how cute these are. This is from my Prim that I showed you the finish of. And I saw that those little X cross stitches fit on a 3/4 inch. If you use 36 count, that fits on a 3/4 inch covered button. So I don't know, I'm probably gonna end up putting this on a project bag, a pin cushion, something, I don't know, but I really love those. So I stitched those up with some of the leftovers. And then I just started stitching these. These are 3/4 inch size. This is all, again, 36 count because it's all the same fabric. So it's stitched with one silk thread over two. And you can see this one looks different than this one just because of how it's dyed in the modeling, but I promise it's the exact same piece of fabric. But let me move this out of the way and kind of show you what I do with that. All right, I'm gonna turn these back over so you can see them. Look at those. Maybe I'll show you a little close-up of all of them. So there's a little windmill, little Dutch windmill. Let me pull that over there. I'll set them back down after. Look at that cute chair. A crown. I just thought it would be fun to do these little sampler motifs and just stick them in a jar. When the jar is full, maybe I'll display them in a bowl. Maybe I'll put them in a frame. You know, like I showed you. Look at this little peacock, little bird peacock, little quilt block. The letter H. I do plan on doing the whole alphabet in uppercase and lowercase. Now you can get these covered buttons, this little key. little heart. You can get these covered buttons in Joann's or Michael's or whatever, but they're cheaper to get on Amazon because you can get them in bulk. A tree. And then here, right here, I've got some scissors, a house, a teapot, and some cherries. Still have more stitching to do. But you know, I do my red thread samplers. I've told you that before I go to stitch for the evening, I usually do 1 or 2 threads. And it's so fast to just do something like this. You just look at something that's in front of you or just stitch something up. Like this heart was just easy to stitch, but you can just grab any motifs off of any samplers and just do a few things like that. But this is one of my stitch card boxes, and this is what I keep my covered buttons in. Okay, so this is the 7/8 inch size. That's the 3/4 inch size. These are all the tools. Some of them come with tools set, and some of them are just what they call refills and don't come with the tool. But as long as I have one tool set that goes with each size, then that's all I worry about. This is one that I got from Amazon when they come in bulk like that. Then, when I showed you last time in my tutorial, some of them, okay, each package comes with a shank backing, meaning that's the back, here's the front. Okay, these are the 7/8 size. And then they come with another backing, so that's flat on the back, like if you're gonna glue it on something or doing paper crafting or something like that, if you're not gonna use it for a button. So it comes a flat disc that you can do it if you need it to lie flat. And so I save all of those, all different sizes. That's what's in this bag. And in here, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with these, but I like them, so I'm saving them to do something with. And so that's my stitch card box, and I just keep it stacked up with my other ones. See, that's what the front looks like. This one's in denim. It comes in 3 colors, and I'm loving these. I keep them stacked on top of each other or side by side and put little things in them, and this is perfect to keep that in. Now, I just have little scraps of fabric, and that's what I do when I'm covering my fabric. But for these, I wanted to show you I wanted to show you the kits. Okay, so this is what a kit consists of. This is for a 1 1/8 inch button. So here's, that's a 7/8. Okay, so here's the cover for 1 1/8, and this is the back. And then it always comes with a little cup right here. And then it comes with the little dish. And then here is the disc, meaning that's how big around you need to cut your fabric to cover this button. Now, I don't know if you can tell that through here, but it always says this one is size 45, which is 1 1/8, and it says 1 1/8 here. And this on here, it says 45. And I don't know if it does on, yeah, it does. It says 45 on here. So you can always tell that those 3 go together, and it's going to make a 1 1/8 button. So what I love about this is I use this for my stitching, meaning I know how big, I know that those scissors will fit on that, because, can you see that? How that circle goes inside there? And so what I do with that, instead of just picking this up like I normally do on a piece of square fabric and cutting around it with a circle, I want to be a little bit more careful with my linen because I want it exactly centered. So what I do is I center that circle right on those scissors. Can you see that? Is that far enough into the screen? And then I just take a mechanical pencil and I mark around the outside of this linen, and you know, you'll never see that. This is going to be covered, these edges within the button. So I wouldn't use a marker or anything because I wouldn't want it to bleed into the linen, but just so you can see that kind of a ring there. And then you can just go ahead and cut that out. So it's really fun stitching these little motifs. They only take a few minutes, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of just doing a simple little design and then being able to cover a button. And they always just look so professional. Okay, so here's your linen right here. Here's your cup with the flat side down, and what I do is you want to put that with the right side down. And what I love about these little tool right here is it always has a circle right in the center of this tool, so you can center it on your design. Now all you can do is the best you can to try to center these, but this is the point that I do it. I just line it up like that, and I can see on the outside where it's going to go, and then I try to turn it over and not move it around. And then I take the cover with the dish side down, and I put that in there and push it in. Sometimes if you have a hard time pushing it in, you can take the end of a pencil or something. Here's my hammer. Sometimes you can just take that hammer and push that down in there. Now when you're just doing one or two, that's not hard, but when you start doing a lot of them at the same time, it gets a little bit hard on your fingers. Okay, so now I've turned that over after it's pushed in, and I can see it shifted over just a little teeny bit. So all I have to do at that point is just take the edges of my linen and pull it over to where it looks pretty straight. And I think that looks pretty good. Can you see that circle right in the center of those scissors? And now that's pressed all the way down, and you kind of push these in. I like to go around the edges with my fingers a little bit and evenly try to press those in, so all those raw edges are going in towards the center of that button cover disc. And then this is what this tool is for. Kind of go like that and press it, and it kind of makes them stay in like that. And then you take the cover on and just set on top. You take this tool again and put on top, so the flat side is on top. And then I like to use a hammer for this. You don't have to. You can use your finger, but I mean, to snap it in. Let's see, it snapped in on one side there. And I just turn it around. Because when I do this, I tend to do a lot at a time. Okay, and then I just look and make sure that that is snug down in there before I pop it out like that. Look at that. So then I have another little motif to add to my collection. All right, you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy doing these covered little buttons. You're going to leave me comments saying, why are you doing all of that? But I'm telling you, because it's fun. Why not, right? And so what I do with all of these after I stitch them is I take the tools out of each one, and I know which one's going to fit in what by, here's the 7/8. To me, it looks like that house is going to fit in perfect there on the 7/8 one. So is that teapot. And I hadn't measured this yet, but I kind of knew this one might need to go on a bigger one. That's pretty good, the cherries. But anyway, that's what I do. I'm going to continue on until I have a full jar. And so I'm calling this my sampler in a jar. And that doesn't mean I'm always going to do a red sampler, but right now I'm going to do a red sampler, and then I'll probably do some other motifs and do some fun things and do different things with them as I go along, and I'll show you as I go. And I'm having fun with still stitching my red samplers, and I wanted to show you after I finish this one. I mean, I'll probably get that finished in the next night or so. I only have to do a little bit of stitching here, even though that's not how, even though that's not how the pattern was, because my great-grandma's name was so long, I had to elongate this, and then I had to take a few stitches. These aren't as wide as this was in the chart to fit those in. But by doing that, I kind of had to pull things down a little bit just for balance. And so this left this area here. So I might do just a very tiny little something there. I might not, but I know I want to do something here. So this is her birth year, Genoveffa Ciccone Salzetti. And I'll do like a little, I don't know, a few little flowers or just a cute little design there. And then I'll be finished with that. And then I think I'm going to do this one next, right here. This is one of the charts that I picked up at Shepherd's Bush while we were shopping for a girls' week. And so I think that's a perfect one. And I just want to do really pretty, simple red samplers for my heritage red sampler wall. I guess that's what I'm going to call it. And so that's the one I'm going to do next on that. All right, so now lastly, I'm going to clear up all this stuff and come back and talk to you about my plans for Stitch-Tober. Okay, so Stitch-Tober plans. So today is October 1st, and so it kicks off Stitch-Tober. And what Stitch-Tober is, this is the 3rd or 4th year that Kimberly and I from Fat Quarter Shop do Stitch-Tober together. And what it is, we just take the month of October and usually into November until Thanksgiving and stitch things that have to do with autumn, fall, Halloween, whatever. And so of course the first thing I wanted to show you is my new chart called Quilty Barn Mix and Match. And that's something that I'll be stitching. And I'm going to be stitching one of each of these small ones right here. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this and explain a little bit about this. So if you know anything about my quilt books, you know that my first Farm Girl Vintage book has this quilty barn in it, and then this barn right here with the silo in it, okay? And I did tutorials for all of these blocks on my blog before it even became a book. And what I did was I drew up this barn block in a quilt, and in the quilt, this barn block finishes at 14 inches, and the silo barn block also finishes at 14 inches. Within the silo barn block, right here in the doorway, a 6-inch block. Any of my 6-inch blocks in any of my books, not just the Farm Girl books, fits in there. And the same for here for the side of the barn, then any of my 6-inch blocks go. So what I wanted to do was make this into the same kind of mix and match thing that I call it in my book, meaning all of these little quilt blocks and animals, you get the goat and the baby chick and the rooster in here, they all have a 24 by 24 stitch count, meaning you can take any of these and anything from any of my stitch cards and fit inside these barns. So here's my stitch card box that I keep my actual stitch cards in. And so let me just pull that right here. So what I'm saying is, so here's stitch card A. So without the borders, because I do different borders for every set of stitch cards. So for instance, I'll just put B here side by side next to it so you can kind of see. So see how this is a different border, these are different borders, but within the border, like all of these are a 24 by 24 stitch count. So all of these can go inside of the barn window or the side of the barn, depending on which barn you make. Now, speaking of the barns, I also made the stitch count for each barn to be exactly the same. So you can see this big one that is 9 by 9 and has the border in between. That means you don't, they happen to all be the same barn and they're all the same quilt block, and I just colored them all different. I did that just so that you could see what that looked like, but also so that you could see what it would look like if you did a 9 by 9 and put all different kinds of farm animals in there, if that's the theme you wanted to go with. You could use all the different patterns that have a 24 by 24 stitch count, but you can take the silo barn and do every other one, because this stitch count on this quilty barn and the silo barn is exactly the same. You could do 9 silo barns instead of the red barn here. You can make your silo barns be any color that you want, like I did in the book. Hang on, let me turn to the page in this book with the picture of my silo barn. All right. Oh, come on. Why can I never maneuver my own books to find what I'm looking for? Let's just go through some of these pictures here. You can see there's part of the Quilty Barn. That's the sampler. All right, I guess I can look in the index. Why is it whenever I'm filming I can't ever find the quilt that I'm looking for? Probably because I don't look in the index. So in the mix and match settings, I have all different ones that you can put everything around. And I love it so that you can use the 6 and 12 inch blocks for everything. So here's a picture of the silo barn in a runner. See, there's a 6 inch block there. Here's a corner of the silo barn quilt. And here's part of the Quilty Barn quilt. And so we've got all the blocks in there. So I just kind of want to show you that real quick to kind of reference. Didn't end up being real quick though, but anywho, that's what I'm doing with this. So Cass, can you hand me those patterns right there? So I've done a few other patterns. Not all of my patterns have this, but I have done a few other patterns that have a 24 by 24 count. So we're up to stitch card J. So that's 10 stitch cards so far. So we've got 40, you've got 40 to choose from there. 40 different, you know, motifs that you can put in there. In my Vintage Christmas, all 12 of these blocks are 24 by 24. So you could do a Christmas one. You could take these barns and make them into a Christmas barns. My Happy Farm Girl right here, all this mama hen without the legs, and these 4 blocks right here can go in the barn. They're 24 by 24 count. My Farm Girl Fall, all of these without the border are 24 by 24 count. And my Quilty Love with this little, all these little quilt blocks right here, these 9 right here with the buttons in the center. That'd be really funny. You can color them all different colors that you want. This is the floss that I've got all ready to go, and that is the called for. These are some very, some of my most favorite DMC and common for me to use all the time colors, and I really like kind of, it's like a nice rainbow. Now Fat Quarter Shop does sell that, my happy colors there for the Quilty Barn if you're interested in that. And I just wanted to give you enough colors that you can just kind of mix and match. You can use the same colors that are here in, you know, in the stitch cards, or you can just switch out to use for this. And I also wanted to show you this that I have coming up. I'm pretty excited about this. This is my holder. It's my Stitchy Holder. It's like my Stitchy pillow. And what you do with that is, I know that if you have watched my floss tubes before, you've seen where I've talked about where I use a little pillow like this to put my patterns in. And so that's what this is for right here. This front pocket right here. You can put that in there. You can put your little bitty board there. If you have a smaller pattern, you can put in this pocket. You can put other things in the pocket. It's got little side pockets, back pockets. I put extra needles here, and I'm pretty excited about that. We've been working on this for a long time, and this has got my Mind Your Own Business beeswax here in the side pocket. But what I do is I have a lap board. I put a pillow on my lap in my stitchy chair, and then I have a lap board that I put this on, and then I have my bitty board right next to it, and I have my floss right there all across my lap board. And that way I love to have my chart upright at all times like this. So I have it in the pocket, or I have it here, and I'm just stitching away like that, and I can see my chart. My needles, my scissors are here, my flosses are all on here on my board. And then if I, you know, when I get up and do other things, all I have to do is pick up my whole board and set it aside, and then I'm ready to go. When I get back into my stitchy chair, I can just pick it back up and put it on my lap. And so super excited about those. I've got my cute little bee logo on there. It's made out of denim. It's very lightweight. I don't like anything heavy like that to be on my lap. And all my magnetic stuff goes here, like my scissors and pins. I don't need anything magnetic up here. I just have it here, although you could, with this little pocket right here, put a smaller needle minder there, put the magnet on the back and put that there so your needles can go. This can also be sort of like a little pin cushion. So that's really fun. And so I believe that this is going to be on coming soon or pre-order on Monday on Fat Quarter Shop. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I wanted to show you that while I've got this stuff out to show you. And another thing is this is my new bag that's coming out, my new mesh bag through Fat Quarter Shop. And this is called my Daisy Denim Bag. Look how fun that's going to be. Love the size. And again, it's got the gusset on the bottom. Can't wait to use that. This is the one and only in existence. This is the prototype that I accepted and said, yes, let's go for it. And this is also going to be available for pre-order on Monday. So I wanted to show you that because I just got all these things all together in a box the other day. And then I've got my needle minder, okay, ready to go with the quilty barn. And I'm going to be putting this project all in this bag that I've shown you before that my friend Annette made for me, because this is actually my Rise and Shine Rooster from my Farm Girl Vintage 2 book. And here's the chart that I made to model after that. Okay, so it's going to go in there. I'm going to be using, I only need little piece of fabric to do both of them because I'm going to be doing 36 count. I want to show you how cute these are, really small. And this is just an 8x12 piece, and I'm pretty sure I can get, you know, one on each side. And then I'll show you how I finish them up. But this is 36 count Old Town Blend. And I really like how all of the colors look on that. Everything's going to show up. The ecru is going to be nice on that. So that's all going to be good. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be putting inside my barns. Probably the rooster in one of them. But I pulled these back in. Remember my little pillows? This is what the tractor would look like for my Stitch Cards B that I showed you. Here's the mama hen. Again, any of these things you can do canning themes, kitchen themes, vegetable things inside your barn, or you might strictly just want farm animals. What about a beehive, the scarecrow, any of that kind of stuff. The pumpkin, just do everything fall if you want. You know, the sunflower, the pumpkin, and all of that stuff, the canning, the pears. I don't know, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty excited about this mix and match pattern. And I hope you guys are too. Once I've explained the concept to you, how that works, because, you know, I like you to be the boss of your own quilt. I want you to be the boss of your own cross stitch too. So this gives you the perfect opportunity to look at that and say, I'm going to do 3 more barns here. I'm going to do, you know, a whole bunch depending on what you want to do, or you can just do 4. This border I've designed to make it easy that you can just start it and stop it whenever you need to, depending on how many you want to do. You can do it all silo barns. You can do every other one, the red barn and the silo barn in different colors, so that all your barns aren't red. There's just, the possibilities are endless, and it's going to allow you to be the boss of your own cross stitch. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is, I don't know if you've noticed, these cute little Farm Fresh eggs, thread drops. Okay, these are new, and we've been working on these for a while, and they come in a package of 20, which actually ends up being pretty convenient because there's 20 colors in this chart. So this is what they look like. Okay, this is the front. This is what they look like when I have it already on my ring here. And then I've just added a little ribbon. I've added a little, one of my tractor charms and one of my gingham button covers. I just put the ring through the bottom in the tractor charm so that this lobster clothing bent over, and then that's what I put through the shank of that button and add a little bit of ribbon. Now on these, you can just use the DMC stickers if you want, or you can use this permanent pen, which is what I use, this Identi pen. I love this to write on plastic because it never smears. I just write it on there and let it sit there for just a few seconds, and then it's good to go. I can go like that and nothing's going to happen to it. And if you want it permanent, write with these. If you don't want a permanent, just use your stickers that you can peel off or write on top of, again, for those. But I love how these eggs look, and of course they look like eggs. They're called Farm Fresh eggs, and they look like eggs with the farm stuff, but they don't have to really be eggs. You don't have to be using them for just a farm theme, but I think it's pretty dang fun. So of course I used these permanently because, like I said before, I use these colors all the time of DMC, so I'll just keep this set always going, and when I run out of thread, I'll just be adding more thread to it so that I always have these DMCs to work with. All right, so that's one project I'm going to be doing for STITCH-TOBER. I know that was a lot of explanation, but I did want to show you those fun things. And Kimberly will be showing you what she's working on Wednesday in her Flosstube. She hasn't been able to do her live streams or film as she had eye surgery, and she is still healing from that. But I'm thinking she's going to be good to go by Wednesday, and so she'll be showing you her STITCH-TOBER lineup. So I'm doing some new patterns, and I haven't got those kitted up yet, but I'm going to start kitting tonight. I've got some ready to go. But look at this bag. Annette made me another bag. She used my crow pattern for my Farm Girl Vintage 2 book, and then she used my pattern for my So Simple Shapes, and did crows there, and my X block from my Farm Girl Vintage 2 book. And so I thought, because it's a crow, that's where I'm going to put all of my STITCH-TOBER stuff. So this is what I've got going on for STITCH-TOBER that I'm going to be kitting up. So this is something I've been going to do for a long time, and I keep putting it off every fall. Something else gets in the way, but I'm going to be doing the Reverend Gordon Squash Bottom. You know, I always have to have something Non-Forgotten Farm going, so that's by Lori, and I'm going to be doing that. This is a new one that I got from Fat Quarter Shop, and it's called The Gather In by Paulette, and I love, love, love this. So I'm going to be kitting that up and getting that started. This one is the Butternut House Pin Keep by Stacy Nash. I'm going to be doing that in STITCH-TOBER, and hopefully this is one I'll get done. You know, when I do STITCH-TOBER, like I told you last time, this is just a lineup of things that I'm starting to stitch. That doesn't mean I'm going to finish them all. I'm going to maybe finish them next year or keep going, but I always have some smalls that I can finish and then some big things going too. But I know I'll finish my barns and, you know, things like that. Now, here's another one that I'm going to kit up, and it's new. I got this from Fat Quarter Shop, and this is by Teresa Kogut. You know, I love her designs. And this is Cotswold Fields. And look at all those animals. I just think that looks, I mean, I can keep this up year round, but to me it looks very fall as well. So those are the new things that I'm going to be working on. And then I just want to show you the things that I'm going to continue working on as some of my progress. So this one, even though this is not necessarily fall, this is my A Savior's Praise by Shakespeare's Peddler, and I showed you this last time. I haven't got back to it, but I'm going to make this my Sunday stitch for the next, until I get it done. For the next all through STITCH-TOBER, I'm going to stitch this on Sundays because I really want to get this done by Christmas, because I want to start another one. So on Christmas Day. And so I will continue that for my Sunday stitch. And what better Sunday stitch to have than a chart about our Savior. And then I'm going to continue with this one that I started last year. Okay, so look at this new bag that Christy gifted me. She made this out of my stitch fabric. Christy, you're the best. I love it, love it, love it. I need to get a crochet flower on that. I've got one of Cassidy's keychains on there, but that's what lives in here. Remember this last year? I started this This is the Saltbox Quilt Sampler by Brenda Gervais. And this is about as far as I got. And so I thought, look, now it's time to get those salt boxes done in there, those salt box houses. So I'm going to continue that and keep going. And I do have a lot of stitching hours planned coming along because I do have a camping trip, like I said, planned, and I have a long hunting trip the end of October that I'm going on with my son and my husband. And so I'm hoping to get a lot of stitching done then. And so I'm going to continue on doing the Coming to America. And I'm ready to, got to do these cute little pilgrim ladies here and then doing the names. And I want to do that in honor of my ancestors who came to America on the Mayflower. And then, of course, last but not least, I'm still going to be continuing. I don't know when I will ever get this done, but I do know that I will get it done. This is Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. That's the cover. I'm not doing the 2 Halloween ones. I'll do those on something else. I'm just going to move these 2 up and not do the bottom 2 squares. I kind of like that shape. So that's not quite so long anyway. Here's a little bit closer picture of what they look like. And I was able to make some progress on this. I stitched on this with on my last camping trip. So I'm getting a little bit more finished. Now this is on 36 count straw, and I am using mostly the Shepherd's Bush conversion. I've switched a few things out here and there. I've made note of that. Just, I didn't want an orange barn, I wanted a red barn, and you know, just a few things like that. And you know how sometimes you just have to switch things out because of the fabric that you happen to be using. Certain things don't show up quite as well, so I've had to change a few of my greens here and there and a few things, but boy, I sure love this stitch. But they're no joke, you know, every one of these, you think, oh, I'll just stitch that right up. Well, it's just a lot of stitching, and I enjoy every stitch, but it does take quite a bit of time, so I'm really trying not to set a goal about when I will finish this. My goal is just to keep working on it, and eventually then I will get it finished up. So those are my Stitch-Tober plans. Let me know what your Stitch-Tober plans are, and super excited to be able to do another Flosstube. I'm really setting a goal that in the next couple 3 weeks I'll be able to do another short Flosstube just to show you my progress on my Stitch-Tober. I will be posting on Instagram as I'm stitching, and so that way I can kind of keep you updated and keep me, you know, keep me going. If I know that I want to post it, then it kind of gives me motivation to keep going. And so thanks again for joining me today, and I will chat with you later.